They were down to 10 men by the 6th minute. That's not dramatic irony. That's not foreshadowing. That's football, playing with the knife between its teeth again. And for Real Madrid, it was like the gods looked down, shrugged, and said, yeah, let's make this one interesting. Raul Asensio, not exactly anyone's poster child for composure, dives into a tackle like he's trying to win a swimming medal in dry land. Red card. 6th minute, and just like that, the script is shredded. 10 men, 84 minutes to survive. Against a Pachuca side who, to be fair, smelled blood and reacted like a shark that just got invited to a buffet. So what happens? Real Madrid doesn't panic. They transform. There's this moment, almost invisible, when you realize they've shifted. Less a team now, more of an organism, everyone pulsing toward a single cause. Backs straightened, shoulders squared, not because they were brave, though yes, but because they had no choice. Survival or embarrassment. And then Jude Bellingham. He's not even from this dimension. It's minute 34. The man glides onto a Fran Garcia pass, left foot, tight angle, slotting it past the keeper like he's settling an argument. You ever see a player score and then look like he's already thinking about his next move? That was Bellingham. 1-0, and suddenly 10 became plenty. Not even 10 minutes later, Arda Güler gets in on the act. This was the kind of goal that makes you rewind it just to understand how it happened. Gonzalo Garcia, head up, slices the pass through, and Güler, that nimble, right-footed whisper of a player, just places it. Cold, calm, calculated. 2-0, and this was after going a man down. In a final, no less, against a Pachuca side that kept biting at the edges. Let me tell you, watching this Madrid side during that first half, it was like watching a man on a tightrope who keeps doing backflips for fun. It shouldn't work. You keep waiting for the fall, and then they hit you with a smile and another pirouette. Thibaut Courtois. Oh, Courtois. He made more saves than your browser's history. One after another, claws and fingertips and divine interventions. Kennedy had 2 attempts that should have sent shivers down any normal keeper's spine. Courtois just glared at them and said no with his gloves. Rondon, Pallavicino, Bautista. They all had their cracks. But you'd have better luck scoring against a brick wall with charm. And here's what was wild. Pachuca wasn't playing badly. That's the cruelty of it. They kept attacking, kept pushing. They were ambitious. Sometimes too ambitious, they'd lose the ball, and Real Madrid would explode forward with the kind of ruthlessness that could end friendships. By the end of the first half, it wasn't a match. It was a story. Not a fairy tale. No, those are for the neutral. This was a myth being rewritten in real time. 10 men against 11, and somehow Madrid looked like they had the numerical advantage. It was a lesson, a sermon. It was football whispering, you don't know me like you think you do. Second half kicks off, and you think, surely Pachuca comes out swinging now. Surely Madrid cracks. They've been running with 1 less player since the 6th minute. Surely this has to turn. But you'd be wrong, because what Madrid did in that second half wasn't just hold on. It was escalate. Right from the whistle, Pachuca tried. They threw on John Kennedy, yes, that's really his name, and for a moment, there was this spark. Shots came flying in from every possible dimension. Rondon tried to curve one from the left. Kennedy let fly from outside the box. Bowerman had a header. Courtois kept shutting the door with that weird combination of wingspan and witchcraft. You could see the Pachuca players start to mutter to themselves, like, what more can we do? And the answer was, nothing, really. But it wasn't just Courtois. Madrid absorbed pressure like they'd been built for siege warfare. Huijsen and Fran Garcia turned into stubborn statues. Luka Modric came on and played like time owed him something. Dani Ceballos entered the fray, and suddenly Madrid had rhythm again, a sort of slow pulse beneath the madness. You could feel it building. Then came the third goal. And, oh, the third. It was Federico Valverde who finished it, but this goal had fingerprints all over it. Brahim Diaz threaded the through ball like he was sewing silk into a bullet. Valverde takes 1 touch to balance and another to bury it. Bottom left, clinical. 3-0. That goal didn't just extend the lead. It exhaled into the match, like Madrid saying, we can do this all day. Pachuca looked stunned. Not because they hadn't been warned, but because they had. And it still happened. That's the worst kind of pain in football, the kind you see coming and still can't stop. To their credit, they didn't crumble. That's something. Elias Montiel scored a consolation goal around the 79th, and it was a beauty, a driven shot from distance that curled low and true into the corner. Courtois finally beaten. No clean sheet, but no collapse either. Montiel didn't even celebrate like it was a comeback. More like he'd found a lost wallet. Bittersweet relief, not joy. The final stretch was a theater of substitutions. Madrid pulled off Vini, protecting the legs. Rudiger came on, because nothing says we're serious like a centre-back shaped like an avalanche. There were knocks and delays, of course. Rudiger himself went down late. The match slowed into molasses, as Madrid controlled tempo like a master puppeteer gently winding down the show. And that was the thing. They didn't panic. Not in the 6th minute. Not in the 90th. They didn't just survive. They won. Comfortably. Emphatically. You'd forget they were ever a man down if you weren't paying attention. But you were. And it's hard to forget when you watch a team redefine what dominance looks like. Let's talk about these two teams. Not the stats. Not the formations. Let's talk about what they felt like. Pachuca. Brave. Wildly brave. You can mock the result if you want, and yes, losing 3-1 to a 10-man side will invite a few cruel memes. But the truth is, they showed up. They came with intention. With hunger. From the first whistle, they weren't shrinking. They were throwing bodies forward. They were pressing. They were taking risks. For a while, they looked like the protagonist in an underdog story. Arms swinging, head held high, trying to punch up at the Kings. But football doesn't care about your narrative. It doesn't wait for you to find your best rhythm. You get what you take. And Pachuca didn't take enough. Their best moments were all these almosts. Rondon had flashes. Kennedy was constantly involved. Lopez and Montiel looked dangerous in pockets of space. And yet, none of it really clicked. They were all individual sparks, no sustained fire. The midfield was where they started losing their grip. Once Real Madrid adapted to being down a man, Pachuca lost the luxury of chaos. Their passes slowed, their triangles collapsed, and by the second half, even their most dangerous players looked exhausted. Not physically, but emotionally. You could feel the hope dripping away with every Courtois save, like trying to hold water in your hands. Now Madrid? Madrid was something else entirely. You can say the name with whatever tone you like. Admiration, contempt, exhaustion. But you'll still have to admit what they did was unreal. This wasn't 11 against 11. This wasn't fair. And that's the point. They turned 10 men into a kind of poetry. A violent, relentless, breathtaking poem. You watched them, and you saw a group that knew exactly who they were. That's rare. Most clubs perform confidence. Madrid has it. It's the kind of self-belief that doesn't break with a red card. It sharpens. The irony? Being a man down actually focused them. The space tightened. The system shifted. Every player suddenly had more to do, and somehow did it better. Vini tracked back like his life depended on it. Valverde ran until the pitch was out of breath. Bellingham? Bellingham played like he had an entire orchestra in his head, conducting attacks, dropping deep, dictating tempo. And let's not ignore what it takes to mentally survive that kind of match. The temptation is to sit back, to bunker. Madrid refused, they still attacked, still pressed, still believed. That belief is what broke Pachuca. Not the goals, not the possession, but that quiet, awful realization that even with one less player, Madrid looked more. Both teams walked into this match with something to prove. Pachuca wanted to show they could slay giants. Madrid, they wanted to remind everyone they are the giants. And when the dust settled, when the substitutions stopped and the referee finally exhaled on his whistle, the scoreboard didn't just show a score. It showed a truth. Sometimes, being the better team isn't about control. It's about chaos, about rising in it. And Real Madrid rose higher than logic said they should. Let's zero in. Not on the system, not on the plot, but the cast. Because this wasn't just a match, it was a gallery. 100 little performances wrapped inside 97 minutes, and some of them, masterpieces. Thibaut Courtois. Where do you even start? He didn't just make saves, he made statements. Imagine being the one guy standing in front of a firing squad and still having the gall to wink. That's what it felt like watching him. Rondon, Pallavicino, Montiel. They came at him from range, from close, from awkward angles. Courtois just kept swatting them away like he was annoyed by the noise. It's not just that he's good, it's that he makes good look inevitable. You start to wonder if he'll ever be beaten, and when he finally is, it's by a laser beam from outside the box. Fair enough, even immortals blink. Jude Bellingham? My God. He doesn't just play midfield, he lives in it. He scored, yes, and the finish was beautiful. But that's not even what stands out. What sticks is the presence, the poise, the way he drifts into space like the pitch is tilting in his favor. It's not just maturity, it's this eerie old soul control, like he's already seen how the match ends and is just walking us there. Then there's Arda Güler. Still a whisper of a name for some, but not for long. His goal wasn't flashy, it didn't break the sound barrier, but it broke something else. Pachuca's rhythm. And it was cold. That's the word. Ice in the veins. Kids got the look of someone who learned to play by watching ghosts, always appearing at the right moment, right place, right foot. Federico Valverde. He's the kind of player you don't notice until you realize the opponent can't breathe. The third goal? Sure, it was a clean finish, but the build-up, the positioning, the sheer intelligence of the run, that's what makes him vital. Madrid's engine, Madrid's exclamation point. Vinicius Jr. was quieter on the stat sheet, but crucial. He spent the first half carving up space, the second half defending like he owed the team a debt. That's growth. That's evolution. That's how you win things when conditions are absurd. He didn't score, but his fingerprints were everywhere. Free kicks won, defenders dragged wide, hearts broken softly. And then there's the defenders. Rudiger, who came in late and still managed to inject chaos and stability at the same time. Dean Huijsen, who played like a man trying to graduate from promise to permanent. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Fran Garcia, both of them handled waves of pressure like seasoned storm watchers. Even the subs mattered. Modric stepped on like he was finishing a symphony someone else had started. Ceballos helped keep the pulse calm. Brahim Diaz? That pass to Valverde. Chef's kiss. A through ball so precise, it could have been delivered by drone. Look, this wasn't perfect. No match is. There were moments of shakiness, there were missed passes, mistimed runs, but what stood out wasn't the flaws, it was how every player responded to them. Together, urgently, without panic. That's the beauty of individual brilliance in service of a collective mission. It's rare, it's special, it's what turned a red card into a legend. And that's why when you look back on this one, you won't just remember the score. You'll remember the feeling. This has been Across the Pitch. Over and out.